Alright, guys, we're coming online. Looks like Facebook is on. We're just getting Instagram and YouTube going now. Alright. Instagram is now online. And so we have Instagram, Facebook, YouTube still sending some data. So Caleb Newton from Instagram, how you doing, bud? Jay Cawley, ready for a long weekend. Colton Crittenden, howdy howdy. So we'll just wait for a few more people. Big Herd Bull, Henry Mack, Josh Nordwell, YouTube is in, so it looks like we have all three connected. So Larry Bennett from John Day, how we doing? Good evening, everybody. Happy 4th of July Eve. Nacho Libre, happy 4th, everyone. Sean King, good evening. 1 week closer, yes. 503 Hunt Toss, Stephen Elliott, Tyson Lockert. Bugle me this. Hey Michael, how's it going? Is it September yet? Caleb, no, it's not yet. So, and I'm kind of glad. So, I'm ready mentally, but physically, I am way behind. So, Merritt 9763, hello from Wyoming. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Mike Boyd, Jason Geringer, and Jay Tappenden. Okay, we're getting a few people kind of jumping in. Mr. Guy. So, Steve Shelley is saying volume seems low. Is anybody else saying that the volume is low? Let's see, let's see, let's see. Let's go with that. Did that help at all? How is the volume now? Stephen Elliott, yeah, volume seems low. Sounds good. Nacho Libre. Anthony J. Boyd, good evening. So, yes, volume is lower than normal. Huh, that is weird. Because, I don't know why. Oh, I wonder, because I did that deal with Michigan last week and kind of messed with the volume a little bit. Okay. How about that? Let me know. Let me go. Okay, Instagram sounding good. Physically, I'm a wreck, living on Red Bull and Tylenol and icy hot. Josh, that does not sound good at all. So, all right, so it kind of sounds like it's just on the Facebook side that audio is a little bit lower. Not really sure why there. So, Michael Button, hello. So, yeah, everybody on Instagram saying it sounds good. YouTube sounding good. So, Andrew Walla, that is worse. Hmm. I don't know. That's kind of weird. YouTube is also lower, but I can hear. God, because I didn't change any of that within this, so I don't know why it would be lower. I'll get a little closer to the microphone and see if we can do it. We'll figure it out. We'll get it going. So, Facebook has been having video issues all day long today. Yeah, I know. I know. YouTube is also lower. Good evening, Mike. Yeah, Facebook side. Perpetual Wanderer, Miss Lena, how you doing? So, okay, we'll kind of give it another minute or so, and then we'll get going. Tonight we've kind of duct tape will fix it. Yes, Josh, duct tape fixes everything. So tonight we're going to talk about kind of several questions that you guys sent in, but one of the ones that I really wanted to focus on was the 5 most important things that a new archery elk hunter should focus on. So, I'm wondering. AC. I'm just looking to see real quick on the mic if it will let me change this in midstream here. So, okay, road, good, good, good. Okay, yeah, I don't know. Everything's plugged in and it's the same normal settings. So anyways, yeah, got a few questions in from you guys, and then also, like I said, we're going to kind of focus on that one. Also have a kind of a new product to share with you guys. So, yeah, I don't know. It might be kind of like, somebody else stated, because I noticed there was a lot of issues with Facebook earlier today. I really haven't changed any settings, so yeah, FPS is good. I mean, all of our marks are showing really good. So, all right, well, let's jump into and get going. So, hello everybody. My name is Michael Batiste from the Elk Calling Academy, and this is Wapiti Wednesday Q&A. If this is your first time here, welcome. We're glad you joined us. Also, if this is your first time or you've tuned in before and you're enjoying the content, make sure that you like, subscribe, or follow so that you don't miss out on future content and future videos. So, okay, the way Wapiti Wednesday works is we typically start with a subject. So, I kind of threw out a post earlier today. Somebody, a few people threw some questions in that they wanted to cover. And we start with that, but as always, it doesn't matter which platform you're on. Feel free to go ahead and put your questions in, and we will try to answer those as we roll along. There is some information that kind of, hold back a little bit because we do have paid members in private one-on-one lessons and also on the elkcallingacademy.com. All right, Facebook trying to silence the Academy. I like it. So all platforms were reporting issues today. Yeah, it's a cyber attack. But okay, so let's jump into some of these questions. I'm going to save the one from Instagram that was kind of pertinent because it's going to tie in with the other main questions. So Stephen Elliott said basically, me and my ever famous hunting partner Dave West think we may have been scouting too high out here on the coast. How high is too high? Does elevation preference vary for elk based off of location in relevance to sea level and distance to the ocean? So really, I mean, that the elevation is going to vary from area to where you're at. They just, like some areas that I hunt, I find elk from 7,600 feet on up to, 85, 86. That's kind of that magical ribbon that I find them in some areas. Other areas, it might be 3,500 feet. It's basically, if you have an area that you found on the map, and I know David sent me a message about this, and so if you basically find an area that you like, when you get boots on the ground, the best thing to do is hit all elevations of that. Go high on the mountain, hit mid-mountain, and hit low on the mountain. Looking for that old rutting sign that we talked about, the old rubs, the old wallows. That's going to kind of tell you in that area where that magical band is. And that band, like I said, is going to vary from area to area to area. There's not really anything that I can sit there and say you need to be at this certain elevation to really, find elk in every state, in every area that elk live. They just vary because there's certain things and certain pockets that they like and they hang at those elevations. So, biggest piece of advice, Stephen and Dave, that I can give you guys is if you were up that high and you didn't even see any old rutting sign or rutting activity, didn't find any of that old rutting sign, then start working your way down the mountain. And up that high, a lot of times, you can find that's that summer range, and you may find bulls up there, but you want to find those old rubs and wallows because that's where they're going to be when the rut comes around. So, or are we needing to look at relative elevations compared to surrounding area? Yeah, Dave, you're exactly right. Just start checking different elevations and really making a mental note. This is where OnX or Basemap or Outly, any of those programs on your phone is going to be really nice, because when you get into that magic mark, when you get into that magic band, you can start dropping pins of that old rutting sign. Those rubs and wallows, just start dropping pins and waypoints, because those are areas you're going to want to go back to in September. So, Big Herd Bull, where are you from? I am from Boise, Idaho. So, all right. So this one right here ties in with the Instagram question. So the Instagram question is, I'm going on my first elk hunt this October with an outfitter. What advice do you have for first time elk hunter? Not a novice hunter, but my first elk hunt. So Judy, really the fact that you're going with an outfitter, and hopefully did research, and there's good feedback on that outfitter, because if you're going with a credible outfitter, they know their area, they've been doing the scouting, because that's their livelihood, is to put you on animals. So advice I can give you is trust in what your outfitter and guide are telling you, but also don't be afraid to ask questions. So, and ask the questions in a way that it doesn't come off as argumentative, or make them more inquisitive. If he's like, okay, if they're like, okay, we're going to go over here and we're going to do this. So, oh, Judy, yes, he's a good friend also. Okay, so good outfitter and a friend, that's a recipe. Then basically trust what he's doing. But at the same time too, it's a great opportunity to ask those questions. Why are we going over there? Why are we doing this? It's that inquisitive where you want to know more. Why are we doing this? Is it because the elk are doing this, or they're doing that, or what? And what it does is it puts your trust in him, because you could tell if they're knowledgeable back, and also it's just another opportunity for you to learn. So, but yeah, biggest piece of advice I can give is trust them. So, private land tactics. Some of us don't hunt public land all the time. When I read that today, some of us don't hunt public land all the time. Lucky for you. So, really, as far as the private land tactics go, it really doesn't change. You're still going to do your same setups. You're still going to do the same. The only thing is the elk on private land typically aren't as pressured. So you can get away with a few more mistakes, where maybe on public land you've got to be dialed in on top of your game. But as far as the tactics go, they're still going to be the same. Early season pre-rut, especially start of the season, you're going to look for those cooler, damp draws, where those elk are hanging out. And then as the season progresses, you're going to go more to those, rutting zones. So you'll go from the cool, damp draws down to where the cows are, and then into the rutting areas. But as far as calling tactics and setups and this and that, nothing really changes. The only thing that will change is when you hear a bugle on that private, you're not going to be sitting there going, person, elk, person. So, because the fact that you are on private, there's a really higher percentage chance that, yeah, that is an elk. So, now you will still have guys that will work the perimeter of those privates trying to pull those bulls off, and you may encounter and you may hear one of those, and that may kind of get into your head a little bit. But no, tactics and all that just stay exactly the same, like we've talked about, in the past. So, do elk bugle in November during the late archery season? They can, but really November time, if it's a normal rut year where that rut happened around the autumn equinox, and then kind of some post-rut activity through October, by the time November comes, I mean, they're so worn out and tired and have lost so much weight that, their main focus at that point is really packing on the fat, getting ready for winter and whatnot. So, if you do hear any bugling, it's probably going to be more location type bugles. But it's not going to be something that you're going to be able to go out and bugle aggressively and get into a rut fest with a bull, unless it's an odd year like last year where the rut happened really, really late. In fact, a lot of areas, the peak rut activity didn't even seem to happen until October. So if the peak rut happens that late, then yeah, you could get some in November. But majority of the time, normal years, not a lot. So, okay. So we're going to talk about this real quick. So you guys have heard me talk about ready nutrients. There's other options out there. Warrior Fuel is another one that I do use, and really both great products. But they both come in tubs with scoops. So, and I get asked a lot out in the field, how do I go from those tubs with the scoops to bottle? So this is the Interfuse workout funnel. It's just two different lids that you can screw off. So you can, take the big one off. You can drop your powder in here, 2 scoops or whatever. And then, the thing I like about these is they come with one carabiner. They come in a 4-pack. One carabiner, you can get a couple more. But the cool thing I like about these is you can just clip them on the outside of your pack, so you don't have to worry about powder getting on the inside. There are, some companies that basically have the sticks, the Go sticks. My experience with a lot of those is you get a lot of powder that leaks out of them. It doesn't matter. I've tried them from numerous different companies, and then that powder ends up getting in your pack and this and that. That's why I like these. So for those of you on Instagram, if you're interested in checking these out, you can actually, when we're done, go to our Instagram page, click on the link in our bio, and then when you're in there, just click on Daily Deal. It will take you right to these on Amazon. YouTube, you guys, they're in the show notes in the description down below. And Facebook, I actually posted it a little bit ago before we started. I really, really like those. They're handy, they're quick, they're nice, they're sturdy. And you can use them over and over and over again. They're really easy for getting those branch chain aminos and electrolytes into your water. That's really important when you're out hiking and sweating and all that. And you don't necessarily have to clip them to the outside of your pack. Sometimes I'll throw them up in the lid of the pack. So, Lena, what's that due to? So the late rut, the rut will vary based on the upcoming winter, what the winter is going to be like. They are pretty dang good at knowing what the winter is going to do, and that's where some research of Farmer's Almanac, you can do a Google search for like this one, 2019/2020 winter predictions. You can get an idea of what the winter is going to be, and that'll kind of give you an idea of where that rut is going to go. But basically, the reason that they will adjust that rut, so like last year, the rut happened really, really late. Well, look at what happened in February this year. February came along and just got hammered with snow. I mean, Colorado got dumped on. Idaho, we got dumped on and was extremely wet. So they will adjust that rut because of the gestational period of the calves. So they want those calves to be born about the time that the snow's coming off and plush grasses are growing and they have that feed. But also too is they also want to adjust that to where they are the last little bit of those calves growing inside, you know, as those calves are growing, that cow needs more and more and more and more nutrients. So that's why in that, February, April, uh, time frame, March time frame, snows kind of start melting. They have the ability to get that grass and get the nutrients to really help those cows or calves grow. Now, if the winter gets too bad, that cow will get so stressed that it will actually abort that calf. It's basically it's a life saving on them that they'll abort the calf to save their own life. So that's what really caused that late rut this year, Lena. So K. Grant McCowan, also the waste, yeah. So can't tell how many of the pouches, tubes I've picked up. So yeah, like I said, this Interfuse one has worked really, really well for me. And like I said, it's kind of cool. 4-pack. They're normally about $24.99, but I think right now they have them on sale down at $15.99 or $16.99. So and I kind of keep an eye on them, and then when I see that price come down, that's when I tend to kind of jump on them a little bit. Um, Okay, Chris Siemens. Hey, Michael, glad to be here. Been a rough few weeks and hated missing the past few weeks. Welcome back, bud. Keaton Chancellor, what are your thoughts on a cow party? How long is long enough to stay in that spot? So, typically when I'm doing kind of any blind calling routine or this or that, Keaton, I will stay there for an hour. Sometimes maybe a little more. Like if it's midday, I might go hour and 15, hour and 20. But typically that hour is the time frame. I've just learned in the past that 30 minutes or 45 minutes just isn't enough. It always seems like every time I get up at the 30 minute mark or 45-minute mark and start moving, I don't move very far, and then all of a sudden I bump elk that were coming into me. So I will stay in those areas for an hour. So Josh, prepare to work harder than expected. Lena, got you. Thank you. You bet. So Travis O'Shea, how you doing, bud? So be seeing you next week, brother. Travis, no, I am not calling in the World Championships next week. Some things have come up, and I'm not going to make it next week, so I will not be calling in the World Championships. So Chris, always trust the guide and seek knowledge. Absolutely. Josh, ask the landowner where he has them tied up. There you go. There you go. There's your private land techniques. So pick up Will Primo's videos for private land info. Andrew, I like it. So Mark Anderson, officially a Patreon. Yes, welcome, welcome. Scott Schmid, sorry I'm late. You are here. We buy Zip Fizz at Costco. They are individual serving tubes that have a solid snap lid, so no powder leaks. I refill the tubes with powders. Yeah, there's a lot of different options out there. In fact, I remember taking 35 millimeter film canisters and cutting the lid a little bit so that way I still had, a snap lid ability and would carry the powder in there. It just worked for a while, but then I stumbled across these and really like those and use them quite a bit. So, okay. So, the top 5 most important things to know as a first-year archery elk hunter. So, number 1 is the terrain is going to be a lot more rugged and steep than what you anticipate. So you need to know that you're going to be in rugged country. I mean, elk live in rugged country. They are tough, and they are going to take you into places that you almost think at times that a human really should not be in there, and if they do get an elk on the ground, that really maybe shouldn't be taking something out of there. I know we've had a few packs over the years that we almost called those knife and fork areas, that you go down there, you get a bull on the ground, you might as well just take a knife and fork with you, because you're just going to end up eating that animal down there. Another thing that's really, really important to know is really understand thermals, how the thermals work. Because if you really, truly understand the thermals, and you really use those thermals as your ally, you're going to be way better off. Um, it's just one of those things that I see so many people will go after elk and they're not even paying attention with thermals, and then they can't understand why the elk blew out or why the elk got quiet or this. So thermals is definitely important. Um, Also, always have a backup plan. So it doesn't matter how tight you put your plan together, especially if you're hunting public land. There are going to be other people that are going to have that tight plan for that area. So always, always be flexible. Always have a backup plan. So, um, yeah, it's never what you expected. Get in shape. Absolutely. I hear it from a lot of guys, especially guys that come from east, out west to hunt, and that's definitely one thing. They're like, "Wow, that country was a lot bigger than what we anticipated." So, number two, listen to Michael Batiste. I like it. Okay. So also another thing is do research and gather as much information as you can about elk, because knowledge is extremely important when you're out there, because you're going to recognize, you're going to understand things. Um, Without that knowledge and understanding, you're going to kind of be flying by the seat of your pants. You're not going to recognize situations. You're not going to understand what's going on. I'm not saying that you can't be successful at all. It certainly happened. I mean, my very first elk hunt, I didn't have a stinking clue, and just happened to get lucky. But preparing is one of those things that can make all the difference when you actually, get out there. Um, the other thing that is also really important is, especially as a first time archery hunter, is don't don't focus on harvesting. Don't focus on punching your tag. Um, Enjoy the journey. If you put so much pressure on yourself about harvesting or filling that tag or this or that, you're going to miss out on so many things about the hunt, and you're going to miss out on I mean the lessons learned, the surroundings. You're going to listen about, you're going to miss out on so many clues of activity, of sounds and body language and this and that. That so yeah, you're brand new. You're not going to have all the answers, but also use that first trip also as a learning opportunity. And I mean, each time you go out, I still, to this day, I mean, this is going to be my 31st year, and I still learn things every year. Some of the things were things that I knew a while ago and I forgot about or just scrapped it or whatever, and then have that lesson come back again. But, and honestly, I'm going to put that one as number one, because so many guys or so many people nowadays hunt for likes. They hunt for social media likes. They hunt for the admiration of their followers on social media. And I would be really interested to have that opportunity, if it was possible, which I know it's not, to sit down with Fred Bear and have Fred Bear be hunting in today's landscape and just see what he thought about all this and how he felt about it. So, go back and read some of our pioneers. Go back and read some of those early forefathers in their little writings and their stories and their journals and their things that they have published, and just, you are going to be amazed at the passion that these guys had, but also the enjoyment of every time out that they had. But also, too, by you taking the time to enjoy your hunt, to enjoy your surroundings, you're also going to find yourself that you're staying more mentally alert in the game too, because you're not so. I mean, let's be honest. First time hunter, you are flat out going to get kicked in the teeth. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have struggles. You're going to have hard days. You're going to second guess what the heck you're doing. If you're only focusing on this successful notch tag. But if you're enjoying the whole journey about it and using it as a learning experience and taking in everything that's around you, you're going to have one of the greatest trips of your life. So, all right. Another important thing is understanding meat care. You know, knowing what to do when that elk is on the ground. I mean, you guys may have heard me on a podcast talk about, that first elk that I harvested. I didn't have a clue. I actually sat there, and once I was done, gutting it out, I grabbed the rack and was just expecting just to drag the thing right back to the truck. I learned really quick that one guy by himself, that ain't going to happen. You're going to have to take that thing in smaller chunks. And I think another important thing as a first-time elk hunter is to have realistic expectations. So, depending on if you're backcountry hunting or, what you're doing, I hear it all the time from new hunters. 4 of us are heading out west and we're going 10 miles in and we're hunting for 9 days and we're going to kill 4 bulls all over 340. Best of luck. Reality of that happening is extremely thin. Also, too, I hear a lot of new first-time hunters say, I'm going to go out and kill a 350 or I'm going to go out and kill a 360. Probably not, because if you've never elk hunted before, the first time that animal comes in, you are probably going to be peeing down your leg. And the ability to control your emotions and execute the shot and do everything that you need to harvest that animal just isn't there because you haven't experienced it before. So don't go out with these lofty, huge expectations on your first trip out. Put an elk on the ground, whether it's a spike or a cow or a raghorn or whatever, but experience what that's like. Experience putting an arrow through. Experience the blood trail. Experience how that animal is going to react once the arrow zips through him. And experience all those things. So again, that's all part of that learning experience and understanding what it takes to really be a successful archery elk hunter. So one of my favorite parts of the mountains is not having cell service and getting back to the roots of life. Walla Andrew, absolutely. So I've heard from a lot of people lately that they're like, man, I'm frustrated. I need to find a new hunting partner. All my guy wants to do is go search for cell service and then sit on his phone. A lot of times those are the guys or those are the people that are hunting for likes because they have to find that cell service to post the selfie or post the status or this or that. And it is frustrating. We like the same thing. Get away. I mean, that's part of it. Getting away, escaping to nature, recharging the batteries. The cell phone. We'll still have them on airplane mode just because so we can use our OnX mapping system. So, do you recommend breathing exercises for building up your bugle? It's not really exercises or breathing exercises. It's really taking, deep breaths and work on, holding those breaths and trying to take deeper breaths. And as you're bugling and practicing, just trying to stretch and hold that bugle out. You can actually do things to increase your lung capacity a little bit. But the other thing too is if you're doing a bugle, okay, if you have in your mind that, you want to do a 3 note bugle with some chuckles at the end, practice those. Know how much lung power you have. Know how long you can hold those 3 notes, but always leave yourself enough air to do the end of the bugle that you want. So if it's a location bugle, to do come off the top of the hill, come down the hill and drag that out, or maybe you come off the hill, come down and then go back up. Whatever you're doing, and everybody's a little bit different on how long they're going to be able to hold those, but always leave enough air in your lungs that you can finish off your bugle. Chuckles, I mean, basically chuckles, you're sucking air back in as you're doing chuckles, so that kind of helps a little bit. Um, but yeah, Mr. Lawson, it just basically comes from practice and knowing your lung capacity for what you're wanting to do. So I think there's the number one thing to understand about bow hunting elk, more important to calling, and not just wind goes up in the afternoon and down in the evening, even just some shade or a draw with creek changes and thermals. Yeah, I mean, you could be on the hot side of the mountain, and as soon as you roll around to the cool side, which is that northeastern side, those temps could drop 10 to 15 degrees, and that wind could be doing something completely different. So understanding how the temperatures, and that's why I say understanding the thermals and what they're going to do in regards to those different temperatures. And also too, what are they going to do on benches? A lot of times you get on those benches with, a little bit of a rock face or this or that, and you just get into a swirly wind mode. And those are just things that, you just have to get out there and experience. And that's where during the summertime, when you're out doing your summer or your scouting, and you're hiking around, pay attention to what those thermals are doing throughout the different parts of the day as the temperatures change, and also where you're at on the mountain. So pay attention to those things. So thermals don't know why autocorrect change it to theirs. Oh, I remember when I first started elk hunting, the best advice I was given was shoot the first legal bull or cow you see. They may be the only ones you ever see on your hunt. Absolutely. And plus too, once you have that experience and you've been into it a little bit, then you can start going, okay, I'm going to go out this year and I'm not going to shoot anything smaller than a 5-point, or I'm not going to shoot anything than a 6-point. That you can most certainly do because you've had the experience. You've taken a legal bull or a cow, and you've had those experiences. Because the thing is once you've had those experiences, and then you start setting those goals for yourself of what you want to accomplish during that season, you're going to find that your ability to control your nerves and your ability to do everything is a lot easier. It almost becomes, okay, I've been here before, I know what to expect. And also too is, especially if you've taken a couple of elk, depending on how they were standing, and that's always one thing that I do when I get up to a downed elk. Is the first thing I want to do is I want to roll that elk, and I want to look at the entrance hole, and I want to look at the exit hole. And then also too, when we're breaking that elk down, I'm constantly looking at, okay, what did the arrow do at this angle? Did it tick off of a rib? Which way did it go? How, I always am trying to study and learn in that efficiency, to know that, because then you recognize those angles and okay, I've been here before, I know what's going to happen with this arrow, and I know what it's going to do. And you also start to kind of start narrowing down and focusing on smaller spots, because you have done it, and how that anatomy is, and how it sits in the rib cage, and how that leg bone comes up. And these are all part that you really can't experience it until you've got an animal on the ground and check those things out and break it down and just study it. It's almost like you're in biology class again, where you're dissecting, but you're almost studying where everything's at and what happened. So your homework on the area you were hunting, but don't become tunnel vision by punching the tag. So yeah. So wind changes all the time in the coastal ranges, and that's the thing too, is that wind's going to change too, whether it could be a bright sunny day, but all of a sudden some clouds come in and cover that sun and it changes the temperature. I mean, even that little bit of change can affect the wind. And these are the things that, if you've never really paid attention to it, you're not going to recognize it. So um, have lots to do for tomorrow. Snuck on here. Shh, don't tell the wife. Now your secret's safe with me, but I won't say a word. So elk hunting is truly a totally different hunt from any other animal. I have learned so much just sitting in the woods and walking in the mountains. Fantastic friends I have met along the way make it all worthwhile. I have had missed opportunities and missed animals, but always have an amazing time. See, Chris, that's the great approach there. You're not so focused on that punched tag, that you are taking the time to experience everything around you. So success of an elk hunt is not about filling your tag. I don't eat horns. I like it, guys. If I was a new hunter and couldn't afford a tag and didn't draw, I would pay to be someone's caller or cameraman. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too. If you've got if you don't have a tag but some of your buddies do, go get that experience. So, and even too, even if you have hunted elk for a few years, it just, I don't know. For me, it gets in the blood. If I wasn't able to have a tag, and I knew some friends of mine did, man, I would be there in a heartbeat just to experience and be a part of it, and be out there with them. So, I think your journal suggestion is a good one for new elk hunters. I did one last year. Perfect. So, and those of you that may not have heard that before, so one thing that I did when I first started hunting elk was I took a spiral ring notebook to camp with me and just started keeping a journal. Uh, would write the date, and then I would write everything about that day, what the temperature was, what the weather was, what elk behavior I saw, what vocalizations I heard, what I did, how they responded to what I did, and I did that each day at the end of the day. When I got back to camp and I'm eating dinner, and spiral ring notebook, it doesn't take up much room. It's hardly any weight at all, but the benefits that you get from that are huge, because it's something that you can go back and watch over, or read over and over and over again. And the cool thing is each time you read it, you just relive that day. You relive those encounters. Now, yeah, there are going to be some days that, there's not going to be a ton that you're going to put into the journal because there wasn't a ton of activity. But still, having something that you can go back and read over and over and over again, you just basically use those as learning experiences, just because, like I said, you get to replay them in your mind over and over again. So I met my hunting partners from hunting the same grounds for years, competing against each other, and now we camp together and have shared hunting spots. Same here. It actually is a great way, and really that's one of the things where I've talked about in the past. Don't be afraid to talk to people that are hunting the same areas that you are. Because one, you can learn maybe some hidden pockets that you didn't know about, but also two, you guys can then work together, and it's a lot more effective if you're working together than if you're working against each other. So Idaho mountains are the only place I can be totally free from work in the rest of the world. I love my yearly visits to God country, Chris, as do we all. So Jonathan Rush, aside from boots on the ground, do you have a good resource to learn about thermals? You know, the internet. The internet is a great resource. You could certainly type it into YouTube. You can certainly type it into Google. You can just basically sit there and type in mountain thermals or mountain wind currents. A lot of different phrases, but there's a pile of information out there if you're just willing to take the time and use those resources. So, and take all of that. Tiny T Photo, how you doing, brother? Judy, thanks for all the great advice. I will certainly take a notebook. You bet. And Judy, the cool thing is with those notebooks, as the years kind of tick along, you can certainly go back and read those notebooks and those journals. And it's so cool. I mean, because you can go, you know, find one from 10 years ago. I mean, I'll dig through old photos sometimes, and even looking at those photos, it just, the memories and stuff, it's just so cool to go back and read those. So, I can quarter a deer and get all the meat off in 20 minutes by myself. My first elk took 2 hours. Their size is not to be underestimated. No, it is a process to break down an elk, and I can guarantee your legs are going to get tired, your back's going to get tight, your shoulders are going to get sore, all of it, and it never, well, I shouldn't say it never fails, but a majority of the time you'll be in the middle of packing that elk off the mountain, and you're just going to be wore out, exhausted, and you're just going to think, God, this is the worst situation I've ever been into in the world. But it's amazing, as soon as you make it back to the truck or make it back to your camp, and you take that heavy pack off your shoulders and you sit down for a minute and you kind of regroup, and it happens every time. You all of a sudden start thinking, man, you know, that really wasn't that bad. But in the middle of it, you're sitting there thinking, okay, you know, if we come back in this spot again, you know, this or that, you know, it has to be a certain size bull, or, you know, you're not going to shoot a cow back in this area. And, but I can guarantee it, as soon as you get back to the truck or get back to camp and you get that pack off your shoulders and you just sit down and regroup for a minute, it's amazing how all of a sudden you will sit there and go, man, that really wasn't that bad. I would definitely go do that again. I'd go do it again tomorrow. So, let's see. Wouldn't get to hunt with Jack Keithley if I hunted in Oregon. Great friend. Okay, some of you guys are having conversations. Nick Stevens, not sure if it's me, but I can't hear you very well. Yeah, people have been talking about the volume. I mean, they've been having issues all day. So, if you think about how hard it will be, you never will do it. I don't know. We've always been that type that yeah, we don't hear a bull bugle in the bottom of the canyon. We don't sit up there and calculate how hard it's going to be to get that out. We've been foolish in the past where we've sat there and went, oh, there's a bull bugling in the bottom of the canyon. Let's go. We'll figure out how to get him out once he's on the ground. So our first objective is get him on the ground, then we'll figure out how to get out. And there's been times that we've dropped into the bottom of that canyon, got him down on the ground, and then we started studying maps and go, holy cow, here's an old road system. And it really wasn't that bad. Where there are individuals that are out there that will stay up on top of that ridge and go, I ain't going down there. No. We'll go find an elk in a more convenient place. And a lot of times those are the ones that don't have that punch tag year after year after year, or the ones that, I mean, I know a lot of things, you know, factor into it. I know a couple of guys that, man, they've been hunting elk 20 years, 25 years, and have never gotten an elk. So, but if you talk to those guys, they'll also tell you, you know, we love our time out there. Every time it's a learning experience, and we're learning more and more and more. But they're not really the ones that are diving off into those holes. So, is a sweet, satisfying. Oh, it is a sweet, satisfying pain, though. When can we do it again? Absolutely. So you got to go where they are. Sitting in the woods and calling a bull in is my favorite thing. It's so cool. So, all right. We have about 10 minutes left. So last round of questions. Hunting solo, the ability to get meat out before it spoils is a serious ethical consideration. It is, and even if you're not hunting solo, maybe you only have one other person with you, and those are always calculations that you have to do. Can we, get this out in time? And are we going to, is there a chance of spoiling and this and that, especially early in the year? But yeah, those are all calculations that you have to do, especially as a solo person, and really with backcountry hunting becoming more and more and more and more popular with more and more people doing it. Um, I really, Scott, you're dead on. I think there's a lot of individuals that focus on preparing for the hunt and focus on getting back there, but they don't think about what are they going to do if they're successful. What are they going to do when they get something on the ground? And that's all part of preparing for that hunt. Knowing what you're going to do, what's your plan as soon as you get something down, how are you going to handle it, how are you going to get it off the mountain, where are you going to take it? I think last year, we talked about for a lot of guys that were going out of state, um, you know, calling around to the closest town to where they're hunting and see if there's any meat lockers that they can hang in. These are all parts of preparing for that hunt. I mean, you're doing everything to prepare to get back in there and shoot efficiently and call efficiently, but you haven't thought one bit about what you're going to do once you get something on the ground. So, are you really having a complete plan on what you're going to do? So, it's all those pieces tied together. So, Bill, one of the hardest thing I've done is breaking that bull down and carrying him out alone. I'm ready to do that again. Makes it a lot easier to stick to a good hit workout program. Absolutely. But honestly, if you could be in the best shape, and if you don't have a plan for how to take care of that meat or what you're going to do based on the temperatures, um, sometimes it's too late by the time you're out there. You've kind of gone past that point of no return, and it could be pretty tough. So, and yeah, Bill, I know you worked your butt off to get that bull off a mountain and competed with some cows and some other critters out there. So, what do you do in early season as far as them not calling and doing a cold call sequence? So, Cody, the one thing that we do and the one thing that we really teach in Elk Calling Academy, and we have this over in the elkcallingacademy.com instructional videos, is our big thing is breeding sequence. That early time of year, you can create excitement. You can take quiet bulls and you start doing that breeding sequence and you do it the right way. You can take that from a quiet area to all of a sudden bulls bugling and responding and being pretty dang vocal. We've done it year after year on opening weekend. And so if you want to know more about the breeding sequence and those instructional videos, elkcallingacademy.com. It is our Patreon page. It is $15 a month. There's all kinds of instructional videos on there on all the different elk sounds, what they mean, how to do them, when to use them during the time of the years, the breeding sequence, midday calling sequence, what to do pre-rut, peak rut, post-rut. We also have e-scouting tutorials and tools that we use for finding, elk areas that we want to hunt in. And in fact, we have a new video that's dropping this Friday in there, a new instructional video. So, which is actually, I'm doing a mock setup out in the field. So you'll see exactly why I set up where I do, why, how, what my plan is to draw, and then what I'm going to do in my calling sequence, but also too, how I'm going to respond to different bugles that I get back. So, heading up scouting next weekend. We'll be out 6 weeks before opening day. Too early or a good thing? No, anytime Aaron out scouting is a really, really good time. Typically, this time of year I've already had cameras out for a couple of weeks, and then I'm spending a good majority of July and August just on higher elevation, higher peaks, and sitting behind the glass. I'm not doing a ton of hiking in the area, especially as we get closer to season. I'm going to work on those higher elevations, those vantage points where I can glass and watch the elk move through the timber. And, that's a really good way to learn where they're coming out of in the evening and going to feed, and also where they're going in the morning to bed. And you can learn a whole lot about an area just from sitting behind the glass. Now, obviously, I'm going to glass those areas, but I've already been out and I've walked those areas. I found the elk sign. I found the old rutting sign. I know this is an area that I definitely want to hunt. And then that's when I'm really going to spend the time on the glass throughout the summer. Because once season starts, I don't spend a whole lot of time behind the binos, because I'm there in the timber, and where I hunt, it's usually a little thicker, to sit there and glass. So, can you still call in a bull during an early October rifle hunt? Absolutely. And again, depending on what the rut activity was like in September, you'll know, especially in those early October rifle hunts, cow sounds can be highly, highly effective. But also, too, if it's a later rut year, there's still some really good bugling activity going on in those early October rifle hunts, and you can still get some good, heavy bugle activity and good encounters in. So, what are your best suggestions about where to put game cameras? So, Michael, there's a lot of different options. So I'll put cameras on wallows. And a lot of times, if I put a camera on a wallow, I typically have that one on video mode. But travel corridors, a lot of times, game trails, put cameras on there, because those trails, they're generally going to give you an established direction of travel and also established time, whether it's morning or evening, and then you can kind of start clicking off all that information that you want to gather about the area, where they bed, where they feed, what travel corridors they use in the morning, what travel corridors they use in the evening. Game cameras are great for gathering that type of information. So, Corey Chrisman, I am doing well. How are you doing, bud? So, I've had to cover my bull with fir boughs 2 feet deep to keep blowflies off till you got it done. Yeah, there are some years where the flies and the bees, it's almost, they're taking meat off the bull just as fast as you are. So, yeah, some years seem a lot worse. I know I made a quick dash up this past weekend, and good Lord, the mosquitoes were horrible. But we still have snow up in some of the higher country still, and so where I headed to, I thought I would be okay. But man, it was outrageous. In fact, I'm heading up there again tomorrow morning, and I think I'm going to take up a Costco size can of off, and I'm going to pull the pin and let that thing blow off like a grenade and get rid of all those. So, Corey, are you going to be at the Worlds? Corey, no, I'm going to miss it this year. Some things had come up, and I'm just not going to make it. So, what underquilt are you currently running for your hammock? So, Nacho, I don't actually run underquilt. The underquilt I have is actually from 6 a.m. Outdoors, Viam Outdoors. They've got some great underquilts, but I actually run a climate insulated pad under or in my hammock with my 0-degree sleeping bag. So, all right, guys, countdown has started. We're about a minute and a half. So I appreciate each and every one of you tuning in tonight. Hopefully you've kind of found some tidbits tonight that will kind of help you this season. As always, appreciate all of you tuning in. Without you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Have a safe and happy 4th of July. And take a moment to thank those that continually defend the freedoms that we get to enjoy. And, just thank them for their constant sacrifices. So have a great 4th of July, everybody. As always, keep calling, keep practicing. Most importantly, though, have fun. And we'll see you guys next week on the next episode of Wapiti Wednesday Q&A, brought to you by Elk Calling Academy. Have a great week, everybody.